Hi everyone, and welcome to this webinar on personalising Supercore. My name's Daisy Clay and I'm head of the content development team here at Smartbox, and I'm also the creator of Supercore. So I'm going to spend the next half an hour or so talking to you about how you can approach personalising Supercore for the person that is using it. And I'm going to go through that with you in grid 3 so that you can see the actual how to do the editing. Before I start, I just want to say a quick bit about personalising, which is to say you shouldn't need to add hundreds and hundreds of words to Supercore because the vocabulary that's in there already is already really carefully chosen, and there should be all of the most highest frequency words, so the words that you're most likely to need should all be in there. But what I'm going to be talking about is those personalised words that you're going to need to add, things like names of family and friends, favourite activities, and things that are personal to the person that's using it. So let's go into grid now and have a look. So this is grid 3 and this is my grid explorer. I'm going to go into Supercore 50, but everything that I say today can be applied to Supercore 30 as well. You can see I've got the UK English version here, so if you're watching this from the US or somewhere else in the world, it might look slightly different, the version that you have, but all of the vocabulary layout will be the same. So let's go in to Supercore 50. Okay, so here we are. I'm going to start off by showing you how to personalise people. People are really important. It's, obviously very important to be able to say the names of your family members, the names of your friends, your teachers at school. So we're going to go in and do that first. Let's go to people. Now the first thing I'm going to edit is this cell here which says my name, because we can change that so that the person using Supercore can really quickly get to a cell that says their own name. So let's go into edit mode. Click on my name. Then I'm going to click on change label and type in the person who's using its name. So let's call them Katie. I could add a picture or a symbol onto that cell, but actually I'm going to leave it at just the written word. Often you'll see children in schools really trying to be encouraged to recognise their written name by sight. So I'm going to leave that without a picture on to encourage that. Now I'm going to go and have a look at the family grid and add some words in there. When you're in edit mode, you can select one of these jump cells, so these cells with the cut off corner, by selecting it and then clicking on follow jump over on the left hand side. Okay. On quite a few of the grids in Supercore, you will actually see a cell like this that has a tip in it, which is basically saying this is one of the grids that you can edit. There's lots of space on here, deliberately encouraging you to add in your own vocabulary. So we've got a tip on this page saying to add the names of family members here. So I'm going to choose a blank cell, click on create cell, and the one that's already selected is the one that I want, which is a right cell. Okay, so I'm going to start by adding in my brother, James. There we go. So straight away it's given me a symbol, but that doesn't look anything like Katie's brother James. So I need to go in and find a different picture. And I'm going to go up here onto the top of the screen where it says find picture. And I'm going to go into picture file. So what I've done ahead of this webinar is I've got some pictures of Katie's family on a memory stick, and I've put that onto the device so that I can go in and add them all in at once. We'll talk in a second about how you could use the camera as well though. So you can see I've got a folder here which says people, family, and I've already put some photos in here of Katie's family. So this is Katie's big brother, James. Added a photo in here. Let's add in another family member. So I've gone to create cell. The one I want's already selected, so I can just click OK. And then let's put in Sister Sophie. Again, it's giving me a symbol, but that doesn't really look like my sister or Katie's sister. Let's go to find picture, browse, find the folder that you want, and then choose this one here. Okay, so I won't go through all of these examples because there's quite a lot of different things I want to show you today, but let's just look at a cell that's already there. We've got one for mummy and one for daddy, and just change the pictures on those. So we're not adding a new word, we're just changing the picture because that doesn't look anything like Katie's mummy. So let's go to find picture, browse, it takes me back into the same folder. So that's why it's really handy if you have got a memory stick and you've taken all the photos of the family or friends and you put them in that same folder, it makes it nice and quick. So let's put in this photo here and do the same for daddy, find picture, browse, there we go. So you'll notice with these photos, they're all quite close up photos of the face, which makes it a lot easier to see when you've got the names on a device. So if I had a photo that was a bit taken a bit further away, then it would obviously make it a bit more tricky to see. So if you're adding in photos, just bear that in mind. You might want to crop them first, or if you're actually taking photos, make sure you get nice and close with the camera. Probably make the other person feel quite uncomfortable, but it will give you a nice close-up photo that you can use on these cells here. Another thing to say is on the family page, you might want to think about adding extended family members like grandparents and even your pets. So pets can be really, really important. So make sure you don't forget those if you've got a pet dog or cat. You can add them in here in the same way as I've done here. Okay, so now I'm going to jump back. Just quickly show you another couple of examples. So let's go into friends, follow jump. So you'll see that this grid here is pretty much empty. So there's loads of spaces for you to add the names of that user's friends there. Let's go back. School is the same. Lots of space in here. So here I'd be expecting you to add things like the names of other children in the class, or the names of the class teacher. You can see over on the right hand side we've got the word teacher and the word nurse and speech and language therapist. So I wouldn't change those, but I would add in a cell over here. Let's do that now. Create cell. It's a right cell. Okay. And let's say the teacher's called Mrs. Jones. I'm going to find a picture, browse, and then I'm not in the right folder, so I'm going to have a look over here, go to school, and there is my teacher. So we're not changing this one over here because we might want to say a sentence like, my teacher is called Mrs. Jones. So we might still want to have access to that word. So you can add words in all of these blank spaces here. Okay, so that's it for people. We've changed the name here, we've added some extra people in here. Obviously you probably want to add more than I've done already, but it gives you an idea. So let's finish editing, and then I'm going to just jump back to the home grid. Okay, so that's people. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to messages down in the bottom right corner, and here this is where I can add in some whole messages, so some quick things that the learner might want to say. And you can see there's lots of examples in here already, but there's just a few examples I want to show you of ones that you should personalise, because if they're not personalised, they're not really going to be meaningful for the person that's using it. So let's go back into edit mode. So this one here, how I say yes. For all of these cells, when you click on them, you'll see that over on the left-hand side, we've got a phrase already in the box. So we don't need to make a new button. We've already got one, but we might want to edit it. So at the moment, we've got, this is how I say yes. But let's select that. I'm going to change it so it will say, I say yes by looking right. So I've worked with quite a few AAC users who have a non-verbal yes and no, and their yes might be to look in a certain direction, or it might be that they're shaking and nodding their head, but it's nice to have a quick way for that learner to tell someone their way of saying yes and no non-verbally, so that if they meet someone new, they can quickly get to that. So I say yes by looking right, and then I'm going to change the other one as well. I say no by looking left. Okay, so there we go. I've changed those. You'll notice that what's written on the cell hasn't changed, and that's because this little toggle here is set so that the cell label and what is written can be different, and that's fine, so we don't need to change that. And let's have a look at some of these other messages. So over on the right hand side, you can see this one here called my name. So that's quite a quick one we can change. So I'm going to click over on the left. My name is, and I'm going to add in Katie. Okay. I live, let's put one in here. I live in, let's put Bristol. And then my birthday is, and I'm gonna use today's date. So my birthday is 26th of November. There we go. So my messages are a really quick way of getting in and saying something very quickly. So these are things that the AAC learner might want to say. Okay, so we've looked at editing the messages. Let's add in a new message for something that they might want to say. For this one, I am going to go to help, and actually let's use one of these empty spaces here. So you'll see that there's still a blank cell here, so I haven't got to add a new write command. I can click here and change what I want it to say. And this would be for anything that user might need to say really, really quickly to get some help. So if they've got any health difficulties, then this could be a good place to put in a phrase like that. So I'm going to put in, I need my inhaler. So if Katie had asthma, she could quickly get to that if she was feeling like she needed her inhaler and say that. So let's put a picture, find picture, I'm going to go to symbols, and there's a nice one of an inhaler there. Okay, so we've quickly added a help message. I'm going to come out of edit mode. So let's just jump home. So quickly you could get to messages and either introduce yourself.
My name is Katie.
Or if something was wrong and you needed help, you could really quickly
I need my inhaler.
say that you needed your inhaler. Okay. So there's lots of other messages, lots of other categories in messages. So I can go into more phrases about me. I can go into more things I might want to say about talking, and you can go in and personalise or add to those. You'll see there's loads of empty spaces for you to do that. So let's have a look at what else we've got. Okay, so next up we've got places. So there might be, so there's lots and lots of places already put in SuperCore, but there might be some really special places that the learner likes to go to, or really specific places. So you might want to add the words for those in. So let's go into places. When you first select places, you still get your core vocabulary on the left-hand side, and then you get some really frequently visited, frequently used places words on the right-hand side. So let's click to get some more. And then now we have categories on the left-hand side that we can go into to get even more. So I'm going to say that a place that I might want to go to, there's a park near where I live called Bushy Park, and I'm going to add that in because it's one of my favourite places. So it'd be quite important for me to be able to say I want to go there. So it's outside, it's a park. Let's go there and see what spaces we've got. Okay, so some nice spaces here. Let's go into edit grid, and I'm going to put it in one of these spaces here. So I go to create cell, I've got my right cell selected, click on OK and type in the name of the place, Bushy Park, there we go. So I can either leave the symbol as it is, or again I can go into find picture. We've had a look at, we've used symbols, we've used picture file, but now we can actually have a look at web search. Because this is a real place, there should be some lovely photos of it. There you go, you can see why it's one of my favourite places. And I'm going to choose one of these pictures here. There we go. So I've added in one of my favourite places. And when you're adding in vocabulary like this, it's really important to tell the learner where you've put it. So make sure that if you're editing it when they're not there, or you're editing it remotely, make sure that you do spend time talking to the learner and telling them that you've put in these words. Okay, let's finish editing and jump home. Okay, so next on the list of things that I want to remind you about personalisation is favourite things. So as I said before, there's loads and loads of vocabulary already in SuperCore, but people or a person that's using SuperCore might have some really specific favourite things that they want to talk about that might not be in here. So it's really important to try and work out what those things are and make sure that the words for those things are in there. So let's go into topics now. This is where lots and lots of the fringe vocabulary is. So words that we don't use as often as all of the core words, but words we still need to be able to get to quickly. So let's have a look at topics. So one of the first topics that you'll see is food. This can be really important to make sure that you've got favourite foods in. And again, like I mentioned earlier, we've got one of these tip cells. So there's a tip saying add your favourite foods here to get to them quickly. So we can either put foods in here, or we can have a look in these categories down the right hand side and see if the words are in there. Whenever you are adding more specific words, do check to see if it's already in here, because if it's a word that's already in SuperCore somewhere else and then you add it again somewhere else, it could be a bit confusing. So an example might be, if my favourite food was pizza, I'm going to just check and see if that's in here, and I'm going to do that using find word. So I can tap on the menu, click on find word, and then let's type in pizza and see if that's already in SuperCore somewhere. It is. Okay, so I can see from this it's actually in two places. It's under meals and eating out, so I don't want to add pizza in, but I can do that for all of the other foods that this person really likes. Check that they're in there, and then if they're not, think about where would be a good place to put them. And you can see in SuperCore 50 you've got quite a few spaces on this top grid to add favourite foods. In SuperCore 30 you haven't got that space, so you might want to think if it's a favourite meal, maybe it can be added into that category, or favourite dessert be added in there. So that's foods. Let's jump back and look at some of the other categories. Okay, toys and games. Again, this can be one that's really motivating. So let's have a look and see what words we've got in here. So most of the words that we've got are quite general things that you might want to play with, but if maybe you get a favourite game, or you get a new game for Christmas and it becomes a favourite game to play, then this would be a really good place to add it in. You can see that on this grid we've got toys in this left hand block, and then over on the right hand side we've got games. So if we got a new game, this would be a good place to put it. Okay, let's think any other favourite things. That's good. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was also in topics was religion and culture. So if the person who's using SuperCore is religious, or they want to have words that are from their culture, then it's really important that you think about adding those into the vocabulary. So if we go into religion, you'll see that we've got some general words for a range of different religions, but you might want to think about adding in some more specific words for that person's own religion. And there's some space in here to do that. And another place you might want to add some words to do with religion and culture is in celebration. So let's have a look at that. Again, in celebration, we've got some of the other religious cultures, a range of religious events, and we've also got Christmas and Easter, but there's space for you to add additional words here, or you could even add an extra page. Okay, so then the next thing I wanted to show you is thinking about someone who is slightly older using Supercore personalisation. There are a few grids in Supercore which are hidden when you first download it. So let's go and have a look at those. I'm going to go to topics. I'm going to go to body. And actually from the body page we've got some grids that have been hidden so that if you're working with a very young user you can choose when you reveal the grids to them. And that's around personal words for body parts. So I've gone into edit mode, and edit mode lets you see those hidden grids. So over on the right hand side you can see just faintly there that there is a grid related to puberty and there's a grid related to private body parts. So it might look slightly different on your screen. I'm going to go into settings and show you how you can turn adult symbols on and off. Currently they're turned on in my grid set, but if I go to writing symbols, you can see there's a setting here to turn adult symbols on or off. Okay, so if I turn it off, come out of editing mode. Oh, sorry, go back into edit mode. You can see now that those symbols that were there before, the adult symbols, are now being pixelated. I'm going to follow that jump there just so you can see some of the vocabulary. It's really important to think about the words that the person using Supercore uses in their family. So talk with the parents, what words do you use at home, and make sure that they've got access to that vocabulary. Okay, let's jump back and I'm going to select that. So once you've gone in and you've done some personalising and you've made those words suitable for the person that's using it and it matches the words that they use in their family, then you can change the cell accessibility up here, which is on the home tab, to fully accessible. So at the moment it's hidden, which means you won't be able to see it, but as soon as I change it to fully accessible, I come out of edit mode, then I'll be able to go into that page. Okay, and obviously going in and changing the adult symbols back to on as I showed you. Okay, so I'm going to also show you in topics the health grid, which is down here. This is another one which can be really personalised. So if the person using Supercore has got some health conditions and they are going to need a bit more vocabulary around their particular health condition, or it might be that they're in a class with other children who've got a health condition and you might want to have some words in there for them to talk about that. Then if we go into health, that would be a good place to add them. So you can see again we've got another one of these tips to add some personal health words here. Okay. Right, so now we're thinking about, because we're using grid 3, we've got a range of different access methods in grid 3. So they might be using switches or eye gaze, or they might be using touch with a key guard. But let's think about what words or phrases around that the person might need. So if I go into topics, just to show you, there is a topic grid on AAC here. So that could be where you added any more vocabulary about the person's access method. But also, if I jump home and go to the Magic Wand grid, over on the right hand side, we can go into a grid all about settings. And if you're an eye gaze user, then there's one specifically for eye gaze. So let's go into the top one first, settings. So we have got some phrases that are already in here, which are quite generic. So whether you're using touch or pointer or switches, you could say something's wrong, it's too fast if your switch scan's moving too quickly, or the pointer if you're using a joystick or a head mouse is moving too quickly. So they're quite general, but you can see that there's some space down here, so you could add some extra phrases here about your access. Let's jump back and go to eye gaze. Same with eye gaze. I've got some general, I haven't got an eye gaze camera connected at the moment, so that's why it's saying no eyes detected. But we've got some general phrases here, but let's just add an example phrase. I'll show you how we would do that. I'm going to put down here. Okay, so choose an empty cell, create cell, and then for an eye gaze user, I might want to say something like, my glasses need cleaning. This is a really common one with people using eye gaze. Always good to make sure their glasses are clean, but let's put a phrase in here so the learner can actually ask for that to happen. My glasses need cleaning, and you can see Grid straight away put a symbol in automatically, so I don't need to do that. Finish editing. Jump home. Okay, a couple more things before we finish. So another thing I want to show you is a bit more fun now. If I go into topics, just want to show you the jokes page. So there's quite a lot of jokes already programmed into SuperCore, but this can be really, really motivating for children who are learning to use SuperCore, and also children who are learning about questions and answers and sequencing. So being able to
How do you make a sausage roll?
ask a question.
Push it down the hill.
There we go. So these are some of my terrible jokes, but feel free to change them. And at this time of year as well, we're getting nearer to Christmas, so you might be, particularly in the UK, Christmas crackers are a big thing, and we always have really terrible jokes inside the Christmas cracker. So you can go here and you can change the jokes. You can either edit these ones or you could add some new ones in. Okay, and then finally I just want to show you the spelling grid. So let's go and have a look here. The spelling grid in SuperCore, when you first go into it, is a phonetic keyboard. So that means that any time I select one of these letters, it's going to tell me the sound of that letter. So,
D.
oh, if that happens, I don't know if you just heard that, but I was actually hearing the name of the letter and the sound, then I need to go into my settings and I need to go to speech and I need to turn off characters because that's going to interfere with it. Okay, a little bit of live troubleshooting for you there. So, what should happen on the phonetic keyboard is that you select a letter and then you hear the sound that that letter will make. So, D.
Oh. G.
Okay, so this is not related to personalising, but I just want to tell you a quick tip for using this keyboard, which is to, anytime you're with the learner and you want to find where a word is, it's a really good idea to use the keyboard rather than using the menu and going to find word. If you use the keyboard, then it's reinforcing literacy and you're telling that learner, I need to find a word, and words are made of these things called letters, and you're showing them how that word is spelt. So it's reinforcing that early literacy word awareness. So I can type the word in here and then I can go to find word and it will automatically jump me back to the home grid and then show me how to get to that word. So I can go to topics, animals, dog. So that was just a quick tip. But let's go back to the keyboard, because what I want to say is that this is the keyboard that you get when you first start using SuperCore. But once you're working with someone and they're confident to put together those simple words, those CVC, so D, O, G, once they can spell those early words, you might want to move on to a keyboard that isn't going to be using phonics, because we have a lot of words that, as you get more complex, you can't really sound them out. So you probably it would be a bit distracting if you're using a phonics keyboard. Down on the right hand side you can see there's this link to other keyboards. Let's go into that here. So we've got another tick box now which says you can edit the spelling cell on the home grid to jump to one of these alternative keyboards. So the letter sounds keyboard is the one that is the default, but I could change it to letter names. So every time I select one of those letters, I'll hear the name of the letter. So I'll hear D-O-G if I spelled out dog. I've got an alphabetical keyboard which is laid out alphabetically but won't say the name of the letter and won't say the letter sound. And then I've got a QWERTY layout with the sounds, and I've also got a switch frequency keyboard. So if the person's using switches, the letters are all, let me just show you quickly, are all arranged according to how frequent they are. So E is the most frequently used letter in English, so it's in the top right corner, so it's quicker to get to if you're using switches. What you'll also see is that all of these keyboards have an option to have the keyboard with prediction cells. So if I'm still working at an early level of consonant, vowel, consonant, no sort of more simple words spelling it out, but I want to introduce the idea of prediction cells, then I've got one here.
Oh.
So as I start
Go.
writing my word, then I get word prediction at the top. So I'm going to show you quickly how to personalise SuperCore and change your default keyboard from a phonics keyboard to a different one. So pop into edit mode, click on the spelling grid, and then you can see in the top left corner it says jump to another grid. At the moment it's jumping to spelling, ABC phonics keyboard, but I'm going to browse and find a different keyboard grid so I can change the one it goes to. All of the keyboard grids in SuperCore have got the word keyboard in it, so if you type that in you'll be able to see all of the options, and I'm going to change it to ABC phonics keyboard with prediction. Okay, finish editing. So now when I click on that you can see I've got these prediction cells at the top.
Oh. Go.
And as I start writing my word,
Dog.
there we go. Okay, so I've gone through all of the examples for today. If you want to have a look through these again, then in the SuperCore manual we've actually got 3 pages all about personalising SuperCore which cover what I've covered today, with a few more examples and a few more tips for you, so you can go through that. I'm just going to see if we've got any questions that have come in. Okay, oh fantastic, we haven't got any questions, so yeah, do have a look in the manual which you can get from our website if you want to go through any more of this, but thank you for watching the webinar.